Thank you for joining CareerCert for our webinar, How to Create Engaging Live Training Online. I'm your host, Danielle. Here at CareerCert, we are passionate about helping first responders improve outcomes through innovative online training, and we are grateful for this opportunity to connect with you to discuss how you can create engaging instruction for your team. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our host for this webinar, Andrew Ross. Andrew has worked in the EMS industry as a paramedic for 19 years. He is a lead educator at CareerCert and has over 11 years of experience in EMS education and management. Andrew, I will let you take it from here.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me today as we discuss how to create engaging online instruction. Today, our objectives are: discuss the benefits of virtual instructor-led training, understand the differences between VILT and face-to-face classes, understand what makes a positive online educational experience, review the attributes of an effective online instructor, and understand how to evaluate students' needs. What is virtual instructor-led training? Virtual instructor-led training is a distributed learning technology that allows an instructor to present information via lecture to students who are only present in a virtual classroom. Students log into the classroom to both view and hear the presentation. They interact with the instructor by either voice, webcam video, or by typing questions into a chat box. VILT activities are accepted as traditional live activities by the NREMT in many states, as they provide synchronous interaction between students and the instructor. The CE provider can verify student attendance throughout the activity, and each topic requires the student pass an exam for each topic presented. So why do students choose VILT? Students gain a more complex and diverse understanding. So instead of sitting in a room with people from the same area, students can interact with other online learners and instructors from across the world, whose experiences, knowledge, and questions can lead the student to become a more innovative, confident learner and develop a more comprehensive understanding of the subject matter. Access to immediate feedback. Students are able to get expert advice and networking skills. VILT preserves the best part of traditional classroom learning, which is the ability to ask questions of qualified instructors and receive answers in real time. In addition, students can continue to interact with instructors and fellow students in online discussions, chats, and forums long after the scheduled class, helping them deepen their knowledge, skill, experience, and work networks. VILT is convenient and flexible. VILT also encapsulates many of the benefits of online learning, providing a flexible schedule that allows learners to take classes when, where, and how it works best for them. It increases engagement and improves knowledge retention. VILT learning engages most of the student senses as they watch, listen, respond, and interact with the instructor and fellow students. That form of active learning increases retention and engagement, leading to a more enjoyable experience for everyone. Immersive and adaptable learning environments. VILT courses provide more adaptability to each learner and situation. With the help of online tools and traditional teaching, instructors can adjust the course to answer questions, start discussions, learn from real-life examples and case studies, explain a principle, suggest outside resources, and better mold the course to fit the student's needs. It reduces costs and mitigates risk. Course fees, instructor fees, commuting time and expenses, coordinating work and family schedules. The cost of CEs quickly adds up in time, money, and stress. VILT courses eliminate most of those factors. It's scalable and easy to track. Both students and departments can easily track all certifications in one place. Many VILT programs directly report CEUs to both the state and the NREMT. Courses can also be fine-tuned specifically for both the student or department needs. And lastly, it improves community outcomes. VILT training allows for the most up-to-date online education that focuses on evidence-based practice guidelines, allowing providers to continue providing an invaluable service to their community. So let's talk about online instruction. There are several distinct differences between teaching face-to-face classes and VILT courses. The first, and probably most obvious, is the lack of a physical meeting space. Traditionally, students would come to a central location to participate in a course. This requires travel time for both instructors and students, the costs associated with the physical space, and results in increased time away from family. Allowing students to attend live training from the comfort of their own home alleviates all of these common problems. While both face-to-face and VILT courses rely on the creation of content, VILT courses particularly require content that is both in-depth and engaging. The instructor is typically not able to see or interact with all of their students, meaning that they are relying solely on the content and their delivery to keep students interested in the subject matter. Courses that are bland or poorly written generally fail to capture the student's attention, leading to poor knowledge retention. Additionally, online content must be consistently updated to reflect current standards of care. Courses must be designed to be both exciting and user-friendly. Students from all walks of life should be able to access and navigate the online learning platform. Moreover, you as the instructor should be well versed in the operation of the learning management system in case students who are more technologically impaired have difficulty. Lastly, class participation is not just required, but is essential with VILT courses. Instructors must rely on student feedback and interaction to assure that the students fully grasp the content provided. Instructors cannot simply rely on the end of course exam to gauge whether the student has gained and retained the knowledge provided. Any educational experience should add value to the learner. Many students work full-time, have families, and many other commitments. They do not want to waste their time in a class that doesn't further their knowledge base or allow them to critically think. VILT courses are no exception. While many may think that online refreshers provide a simple check mark next to the CEU requirement, it is anything but. In many ways, courses must be more intensive and provide more knowledge than traditional courses so that students feel as though they have gotten what they paid for. Upon completion of the course, the student should walk away feeling as though the course was a positive and enriching experience. This would support the idea of effective learning. Knowledge retained must be applicable to the student's need and skill set. Lastly, online instruction should lead the way to further learning. A lifelong student realizes that their education is never truly over. They should leave the VILT course with a desire to further their learning. This can be facilitated by the use of critical thinking exercises and theory discussion during the course. This type of instruction stimulates the mind of the student, making them more likely to seek further knowledge after the course. That being said, none of this would work without great instructors leading the VILT course. We will discuss what makes a great instructor later in the webinar. So, what makes a poor educational experience? Sadly, many online courses do not meet the qualities discussed in the previous slide. Many times, online courses, whether self-paced or virtual instructor-led, are designed around a PowerPoint presentation that were previously used in a face-to-face class. Classes that are supposed to be live would be no different than a recorded lecture. After 2 hours of a boring PowerPoint presentation, the student is so tuned out they might not be able to tell you what the course was even about. Now that we understand the components of a great educational experience, let's take a look at what makes a great instructor. The skills of online instructors are vital to the learning process. Similar to face-to-face instructors, online instructors need a strong foundation in content, instruction, and assessment. In addition, they need experience in other specific areas, such as grasping the ins and outs of specific training tools. It is very important for instructors to completely understand the virtual training tools they use. A thorough grasp of those tools will improve the student's learning experience and make you more effective at transferring knowledge to students. So what attributes does a great instructor have? Moreover, how can they utilize those attributes for the betterment of their students' educational experience? Simple. Great instructors are positive, prepared, organized, clear, active, and patient. Be positive. Think of a time when you had a positive and engaged instructor. What kind of difference did that make in your course performance? Keep your students engaged with a positive attitude. Teaching is most effective when students are motivated by the desire to learn, rather than by grades or degree requirements. Many first-time instructors are confused by the new authority of leading a course and mistake intimidation for respect. Think of your students as teammates, not adversaries. Learning and teaching are challenging, but that doesn't mean that you can't have fun in the classroom. Stay focused, but don't be afraid to be creative and innovative. Allow yourself to be enthusiastic and to find ways to let students see what is interesting about your subject. Be prepared. You should know the course material. Nothing is worse than when an instructor shows up to a class utterly unprepared, wasting both your time and theirs. If your students are required to be prepared by studying and completing assignments, then it seems reasonable that you would do the same. Review key concepts and ideas if you are unclear about them, particularly if it has been a while since you have worked with the topics you will be teaching. Think about how the material can be most effectively demonstrated and design a strategy. Write an outline or take notes to follow during a lecture, and then prepare any teaching aids well in advance. Do not wait until the day of the class to get prepared. Be organized. Have a plan for what you want to teach. Your job is to illustrate key points in essential context to help students integrate all of their existing knowledge base for the course. Take the time to either review the course outline or write your own. Given that there is never time to teach everything, choose the most important concepts and show how they are related. Explain ideas so students are able to build on material they have already mastered, whether from your course or previous classes. Don't just focus on what you happen to be teaching today. Show students how what they are learning is connected to the material covered later in the course or other classes they're going to take down the line. Keep your long-term goals in mind. Pace yourself so you don't run out of time at the end. And always try to end every class with a relevant conclusion. Be clear. Think about a time you were taking a class and felt as though you were the only one not getting it. That can be a very lonely and frustrating feeling, particularly when the knowledge is related to your ability to perform your job role. Some students will stay quiet if they feel as though they might be looked down on by others for not understanding the information. Effective teachers can explain complex ideas in simple ways. As you develop expertise in an academic field, it is easy to forget that students may have no prior knowledge of fundamental concepts that you take for granted. Help students to understand and to use new terminology so they can become fluent in the language of your discipline. Be active. Keep your students thinking. While many of our students are actively using the concepts we are teaching, some will remember only a small fraction of the information you present. A lecture is an efficient way to deliver information to large numbers of people, but an inefficient way to provide students with lasting knowledge and skills. Consider using at least some classroom time for activities other than traditional lectures, discussions, or question and answer sessions. While this may seem hard to do in a built classroom, it can most certainly be done. Many learning management systems have programs built in that allow the instructor to utilize polls, quizzes, or even games to help drive a point home. Allowing students to engage with the material being covered will lead to greater levels of knowledge retention. Be patient. Remember what it is like to learn something for the first time. Give students time to process information and to answer questions. Know that it is fine for students to make mistakes if they can learn from them. Realize that learning can be hard work, even for the most motivated students. Rather than blaming students when things don't go right, Consider ways you could change your approach to reach them more effectively. Concepts, background information, history, or conclusions that may seem obvious to you may or may not be so clear to somebody who is new to the subject. Be patient with yourself too. Teaching can be difficult and frustrating at times. Give yourself the same opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them. So how do we keep students engaged? Online education means there is little to no face time with our students, meaning that we are relying on other skills to keep them interested in the material. Here, we will look at several tactics that online instructors can utilize to not only instruct, but to keep their students engaged in learning. First and foremost, greet the class warmly. First impressions are important. When greeting your students for the first time, it is important to be cognizant of how you present yourself. The first few seconds of any encounter, whether online or in person, will set the tone for the entire interaction. So it is imperative that online instructors make a good impression. Even though you are more than likely alone, try smiling when you talk. It is hard to sound monotone and boring when you are actively smiling. Take care to enunciate your words. Garbled or slurred words can be off-putting for students and may even confuse them. Lastly, be excited. Stand behind your desk instead of sitting down or move your hands expressively. Your enthusiasm is guaranteed to transfer over to your students. If you sound as though you are excited to be there, they will be as well. Now, let's take a listen at the difference between two very different style of greetings. Greeting 1. Hello class, my name is Drew. I'm going to be your instructor this evening. We should probably go ahead and get started. This instructor was not smiling. He was not enunciating his words, and he was not excited. This is a very poor example of how an online instructor should greet their students. Greeting 2. Good evening, class, and welcome to Cardiology 2 for the ALS provider. I am very happy to be here with all of you today. I hope you are all doing well and are ready to discuss some very interesting information. You could tell that this instructor was smiling. He did enunciate his words, and he was very excited. This is an excellent example of how an instructor should greet their class. This will help students feel more comfortable, particularly if they have never taken an online course before. Another tip is to provide frequent feedback. In a live setting, a student benefits from a number of factors to keep them engaged. They see the smile and nod of the teacher, the thoughtful glances of other students, and the active and exciting back and forth that can build in conversation among those students. In a live online class, these visual clues may not apply. Instead, we should build moments of validation in to help build self-efficacy in your students. A common complaint from students who take online courses is that they receive very little feedback on their performance. Granted, it can be difficult for an instructor to give constant feedback to every student in the online environment. However, it is important that a good faith effort is made to do so anytime a student asks a question or gives an answer. This helps the student solidify their knowledge base, and it makes them feel as though the instructor is working with them, not talking at them. Examples of providing frequent feedback include, "You're correct, Vernon. Stroke is a side effect of atrial fibrillation." "Exactly, Robert. The APGAR score for the newborn is a 9. Great work." Encourage discussion. When teaching VILT courses, you may be speaking from anywhere from 1 to 4 hours at a time, sometimes longer. No matter how enthusiastic you may be, or how pleasant your voice may sound, eventually students may begin to tune you out. This is why it is important to encourage active discussion in your classroom. Students will benefit not just from your knowledge, but from others as well. Many students may be afraid to ask questions in front of others for fear of looking as if they're not as intelligent as the rest of the group. Encouraging open discussion can help alleviate some of that pressure. Examples of that would be, "That was a great answer, Tony. Can you expand a bit on what you meant?" "Susan, your explanation of the difference between sepsis and severe sepsis was on point. Can you tell us what septic shock might look like?" "David, I can see where you're going with your comment on the use of high-flow O2 in patients with an MI. Let's take a look at what the most recent literature states. The goal of online communications is the same as the goal in face-to-face communication: to bond, to share information, to be heard, and to be understood. Fostering a sense of community in online classes will make the learning experience more meaningful for online students and help them stay connected. When we are communicating with students, we are trying to either give or get information in order to gain understanding and build relationships. In a face-to-face class, you have the benefit of using body language and facial expression to help you communicate and get your message across to your student. When teaching an online class, you are limited to using your voice and other visual aids to help you get your point across, meaning that you must rely on your ability to strongly communicate in order to ensure that your students get the information they need. When communicating, it is important to keep 3 factors in mind. You should be clear, you should be concise, and you should be complete. Clear communication exists when the message received is the same as the message which the sender intended to send. If you have been clear, then the student will have easily understood your message. Communicating concisely means choosing your words deliberately and precisely, constructing your sentences carefully, and using grammar properly. By speaking concisely, you will get straight to your point in a way your audience can easily comprehend. Lastly, the communication must be complete. It should convey all facts required by the audience. The sender of the message must take into consideration the receiver's mindset and convey the message accordingly. Now let's look at a few more tips to help you solidify your role as an online educator. Moderating a VILT course can be challenging for the inexperienced instructor. To make the process easier, let's take a look at a few simple steps that will enhance your ability to moderate the course. First, convey clear expectations. Be specific in what you expect students to know and to be able to do. Create an environment in which there is a genuine respect and a belief in their capability. Encourage students to meet expectations for a particular task. Second, clarify your role. Students might bring particular expectations to their online course. It is important to share with them how you envision your role in online discussions, which depends upon your pedagogical beliefs and teaching style. Keep in mind that your own contributions will set the tone for the discussion. Third, ask questions. Some instructors ask questions that they think are important, but somehow never seem to bear fruit. Good instructors ask questions that they are really interested in discussing. These questions need to be open-ended, and instructors should always include a general question that prompts students to react in an aspect of the lecture that caught their attention. Fourth, know when it's time to stop. This can be a challenging aspect of any course, but particularly in a VILT course. Discussions have a way of growing legs and walking off on their own. So it's important to instructors to be able to rein the conversation in, or, if need be, get the students to move on to the next topic. As stated before, students will get tired of hearing their instructor go on and on, regardless of how expressive you are. That is why it's a great idea to utilize enhanced learning techniques such as case studies, scenarios, games, and student teachback. Case studies work well because they take a real-world situation and provide an in-depth analysis of the events. A research methodology that is commonly used in social sciences, case studies are based on an in-depth investigation of a single individual, group, or event to explore the causes of underlying principles, providing a descriptive and exploratory analysis. Scenarios allow the student to look at potential problems, consider potential solutions, and test out the results of their actions in a safe environment. While this may seem impossible within a VILT course, it's easier than one might think. To prevent all of the students trying to run the scenario at one time, it may work well to break the scenario down into phases, allowing one student to answer at a time as to how they would proceed. In-course games have the potential to turn learning into a challenge. Through the game, concepts are introduced, and students can develop and improve their skills without losing motivation. Fear of failure is greatly reduced because there is no risk during the learning process. But at the same time, it is possible to learn from mistakes and correct them. Everyone can complete the level and move forward. There is a permanent mentality of improvement and development. The Federation of American Scientists claims that games are the best way to learn. Thanks to the game, students can improve their performance, increase their effort, and develop their knowledge thanks to practice. Lastly, the student teach-back method, also known as the show me method, is a communication confirmation method used by instructors to confirm whether their student understands what is being explained to them. If the student understands, they should be able to teach back the information accurately.
Thank you so much, Drew, for your incredible insights and for all that you've shared with us today. Right now, we're going to take just a little break to show some examples of what Drew has been talking about and to get your creative juices flowing so you can find out creative ways to help your online students engage with your content. I asked Drew to share one of his favorite games, and here it is. This game is great at enhancing learning. It's a category game where all students can answer and earn points, much like in Jeopardy! For instance, here you see that we have categories like climbing ladders, look at me, help, I can't breathe, be safe, quick, the baby is coming. This is a fun and exciting way to help your students engage with your content. For example, let's try clicking on one of these. I'll take I can't breathe for 20. Here you can see the question that would appear. Then the student can answer. This allows the student to become an active part of the discussion. Here we see the answer. This kind of game helps students have fun and challenge each other through competition. Games help people interact, engage, and it facilitates interest. This helps your courses be much more memorable and to help your learners retain this information for when it counts most. Now, let's look at a few other examples of how to engage and interact with your learners. These come from some of our Career Cert courses. Here in our LGBTQ awareness course, we have a fun way for people to learn some of the important definitions for this course. This is a virtual representation of the all too familiar note cards, where you have a word on one side and the definition on the back. This is a great way for students to be able to try and define these words on their own and to build their skill. And then to test their knowledge, you can create a fun matching exercise where the student needs to match the word with the correct definition. Another great example of interactive online learning are case studies. Here we have a case study about naloxone administration in EMS. You and your partner call to the scene of a male patient not breathing with no pulse. When you arrive, you find the local fire department on the scene with the patient. He appears to be in his 20s, lying supine on the floor with firefighters providing chest compressions and manually ventilating with a bag valve mask device. In these case studies, students can walk through a real-life scenario. This type of learning provides a safe way for learners to practice what they just learned. It also helps them build critical thinking skills and problem-solving skills by figuring out how they can provide the best patient care. Another great way to engage students is to have them rehearse what they just learned by applying it to their own unique situation. For instance, in this course about personal protective equipment, you can ask questions about the particular situations each learner faces. They then have the chance to interact, respond, and think critically about the education that they just learned. Our last example comes from one of our self-paced courses on disaster preparedness. Here, you can see the ways in which multimedia plays an important role in engaging student attention. You can add photos, videos, and other interactive elements to keep your learners engaged and to help shake up the current lesson plan. In addition, don't be afraid to use resources that already exist. For instance, you can have your students create a preparedness plan of their own using the National Center for Disaster Preparedness Wizard. In truth, when it comes to online instruction, you're only limited by your imagination. So, what are some of the ways you like to engage your personnel, either in personal training or online? Again, videos, polls, pictures, games, discussions, competitions, group breakout sessions, all of these tools can help create a better online learning experience and can help you improve patient outcomes for your learners. Okay, Drew, I'll turn it back to you now.
Thanks to modern technologies, individuals can communicate with each other easily via web conferencing tools. These tools not only allow collaboration with students, but allow students to collaborate and communicate with one another. These tools are an integral part of teaching virtual classes. Hence, a virtual instructor with a firm understanding of them will deliver more effective online courses. Being productive in a remote environment is key. Most virtual instructors are themselves remote employees, meaning they often work from home. This allows instructors to provide online instruction in a comfortable setting and gives them autonomy over their schedules. Because of this, virtual instructors must be self-motivated and able to stay productive outside of a traditional office setting. And with so many tools available to help individuals connect visually and vocally, there's no reason that a lack of face time should detract an online instructor from being productive while working in a remote environment. As technologically advanced as we are, we still cannot escape the difficulties that come with technological utilization. When the instructor or student have technical difficulties, it can bring the educational experience to a screeching halt. That is why it is important to make sure you have a plan in place in case this occurs. It's important to know that not every student who comes to your classroom is going to be technologically proficient. Also, not every student is going to be in your class by choice. Some have to come as part of their job requirement. So, if possible, have a step-by-step guide ready for them so they can utilize the basic components of your classroom. Even students who are proficient with technology will experience issues from time to time. Remember though, not every problem is going to be on the student side. You as the instructor will also run into problems occasionally. Take the time to get familiar with the program you are using to run your course. Discuss common problems with other instructors and see what problems they run into. Lastly, know who to contact if there are problems you can't fix. Knowing how to mitigate technical issues will help keep your class running smoothly. Now let's take a look at the program. The design of built programs require a different approach than classroom or online asynchronous programs. The instructional designer must provide the instructor and student with mechanisms to communicate frequently and must keep the content engaging and collaborative. Learning content must be developed with maximum student engagement in mind. To capture learners' interest and promote retention, built courses must be designed around a comprehensive learning strategy. Visuals and interaction are extremely important to promoting engagement and increasing training effectiveness. So, what are students looking for in a program? Easy. They're looking for convenience, low cost, ease of access, relevant information, and to be challenged. First and foremost, built programs need to be convenient. In today's world, it is not uncommon for our students to work one or even several jobs. They need an education that can fit around their life, not vice versa. Without the location or time limitations of a traditional classroom setting, built students have the freedom to absorb content and engage with peers at a time and location that they will learn best. The professional world is realizing that not every learner is the same, and sitting in a classroom for hours to learn about a topic is not effective for everyone. A virtual classroom allows learners to comprehend topics on their own terms, on many different devices, anywhere there's internet. Low cost. While convenience is almost always at the forefront of any conversation about built courses, cost is also brought up as a motivating factor. In a more traditional setting, there are many factors that contribute to the high cost of course delivery. Everything from supplies to utilities to the cost of the space being rented is generally rolled into the cost of the class. Add to that any associated costs required by a certifying authority, and it's easy to see why many working professionals are looking for a cheaper alternative. While there are significant costs associated with built courses, they generally do not surpass those of traditional brick and mortar classes and therefore do not get passed along to the consumer. Built programs must have relevant information. Students are constantly asking themselves and us, when am I ever going to use this? As an instructor, you will probably be faced with this question more than once. If you are not prepared, you may not be able to give a satisfactory answer. Research shows that relevant learning means effective learning, and that alone should be enough to get us rethinking our lesson plans. The old drill and kill method is neurologically useless. Relevant, meaningful activities that both engage students emotionally and connect with what they already know are what help build neural connections and long-term memory storage. The traditional building block curriculum, which devotes substantial parts of initial courses to basic theory, could demotivate students if they cannot see how that theory was applicable to their discipline or chosen profession. Students need a professional connection to the material, whether that's through engaging them emotionally or connecting the new information with previously acquired knowledge. Without that, students may not only disengage and quickly forget, but they may also lose the motivation to try. So how do we build relatedness? First, use suspense to keep it fresh. Drop hints about the next portion of your lecture before you reveal what it is. Leave pauses in your speech. All of this can activate emotional signals and keep students interested. 2, connect it to their lives and what they already know. Taking the time to brainstorm about what students already know and would like to learn about a topic helps them create goals and helps instructors see the best points of departure for new ideas. 3, provide utility value. Utility value answers the question, yeah, but what am I going to use this for? Utility value is purely academic and emphasizes the importance that content has for the student's future goals, both short-term and long-term. For example, physics tends to be less than fascinating to your average student. But for a student who wants to be an engineer, physics is interesting and can also hold great utility value. What this means is that utility value provides relevance first by piquing students' interest, telling them that the content is important to their future goals. Then it continues by showing or explaining how the content fits into their plans. This helps students realize that content is not just interesting, but also worth knowing. Number 4, build relatedness. Relatedness answers the question, what does this have to do with me? It is an inherent need students have to feel close to the significant people in their lives, including teachers. Relatedness is seen by many as having non-academic and academic sides. Building relatedness with your students will keep them engaged and add value to their education. Lastly, a built program challenges students. Believe it or not, most students want to be challenged. They do not want to feel as though they are wasting their time and money on useless courses that add little to no value to their knowledge base. Recently, over half of college students in the United States who were surveyed reported to be insufficiently challenged by their courses, despite increasing admission selectivity. However, the study also showed a correlation between student-instructor engagement and knowledge retention. While we know this to be true of college-level students, it is also true of students who attend built courses for the purpose of continuing education. They need to feel as though their time spent in front of the computer is worthwhile. This leads us to the idea of intellectually challenging our students. In order to do that, we need to consider a few factors. First, we need to understand that it involves the original application of knowledge and skills, not just the routine use of facts and procedures. Students don't need you to recite facts that they likely already know. Second, It calls for the disciplined inquiry into the details of a particular problem, not just superficial exposure to many topics. Third and last, to intellectually challenge our students, the resulting material should be a product or presentation that has meaning or value to them. In conclusion, virtual instructor-led training is a distributed learning technology that allows an instructor to present information via lecture to students who are only present in a virtual classroom. Students gain a more complex understanding because they can interact with other online learners and instructors from across the world, allowing them to become a more confident learner and develop a more comprehensive understanding of the subject matter. Great instructors keep students engaged with a positive attitude. They are prepared by knowing the course material. They are organized and they have a plan. They are clear by being concise in word choice so as to ensure students understand what is being said. They are active by keeping students engaged. And they're patient by remembering to give students time to process information and to answer questions. Take the time to become familiar with your training tools and always prepare for the unexpected. Remember, students are looking for programs that are convenient, cost-effective, relevant, and that provide a challenge. Students don't want to feel as though their time has been wasted on useless information. Take the time to address their needs and intellectually stimulate them. Remember, a student will never forget an amazing instructor. Good luck.